Welcome to the Jim Green Custom Boot Builder page. In this video, we are going to take you step by step on how you can create your perfect pair of boots. Now what we're going to do before jumping into how to go about this is we're going to show you the finished product that we are about to create. Now we are doing this to give you a better idea of where we are heading and the selections we are about to make. So let's get going. On our Jim Green website, you will see a tab at the top here called Custom. Now you select this and it will take you to our custom boot builder page. You'll see here at the bottom you are sitting on $0, and as you add your customization this will gradually increase. So let's get started. The first page is a basic silhouette of all the styles that we offer. Now if you're unfamiliar with Jim Green, you can see what these styles look like on our website or various social media pages. Now one thing to mention before I continue is that you obviously have a certain spec in mind of what you want to build. Now, if you hit a bit of a dead end along the way of our custom boot builder, it's not because the website is broken or not working. It is simply because we cannot do that with the tools we have available, or that spec isn't an option on the styling or sole or upper pattern that you have chosen. Now, an example of this would be if you were to choose an African Ranger on our ASHM last, but you wanted a steel toe cap. Now this isn't possible because steel toe caps can only be made on lasts that are suitable for our steel toe caps. Now we'll learn a bit more about this as we continue, but for now, as you know, we are going to be making our African Ranger. So if you select African Ranger, it's going to automatically give you the customization fee for a basic African Ranger of $209. Now just to go back and click around a bit, if you wanted a Shuli, it's going to be $159. Something like our Numzan boot is going to be $279. Now, as you know, we are making an African Ranger. So I'm going to select here and onto the next page. Now, Jim Green sizing is true to the Brannock device. So if you've been measured up there, you can go according to that. Or if you have a pair of Jim Greens, then obviously you'll be familiar with your size already. Now, if you haven't been measured up, then on the right hand side here, we have a size guide, which is pretty accurate. Now, one thing to mention about customized boots is that we don't accept any returns or exchanges. And that is simply because they are custom made and we won't be able to resell them once you have them. So please make sure that you have used all sizing guides available. There's a lot of information online, especially on channels like Reddit, of people and customers who have had experience with Jim Green that can give some advice. So for here, we are going to go size 8 and on to the next step. So here we have the last. For those of you that don't know what a last is, this is what gives the boot its shape. Now on our YouTube channel, we have a lot of videos where you can find all this information in more depth. So we'll have a video where we go through each of these lasts and explain them in a little bit more information. Now, as I mentioned previously, here you'll see the steel toe cap last and you'll see steel toe zero drop last. So if we wanted a safety boot or something with a composite toe cap or steel toe cap, you would have to choose one of these two lasts, as steel toes wouldn't be available on any of the other ones. So there is a little bit of information here on the lasts and what they offer, and for this boot we are going to be choosing the steel toe cap last. So now we'll be choosing the outsole. Here we have a selection of a number of outsoles, and once again I suggest that you refer to our website, or on our YouTube channel we have a number of custom made boot videos where you can see the different silhouettes that each sole is going to offer. Now this is all down to personal preference and a little bit of research to what sole you're needing, as each sole is specific for various industries that you work in, or depending on just the look that you are going for. So what we're going to be doing for this boot is we're going to be going a Ringo wedge in brown, which we also give a reference of OR. So now we are on to choosing what leather you want to use on the boot. Now, as you would have seen from the little sneak peek we gave you, this is a two-tone boot. So if we wanted just a straight full grain leather boot, it gives you all our options here. We go back, we've got a number of rough out options. So some of these are just suede, like you'll see here, chestnut suede, where some of them is the tan, but in a rough out. So you would have seen this tan when I clicked on full grain, but this would have been the smooth side out. We do have a specialty page where we have some unique leathers. At the moment, there's not much to offer on here, but it's always good to just check in on this website and see what we have available. So here we are going to be choosing two-tone, and the reason I've gone two-tone for this video is so that we can show you exactly how much customization you can do. So here we've got a nice little picture of the boot just to explain to you exactly where you can change the leathers, and you have a selection of two leathers that you can choose from. So you would have seen from the sneak peek that this boot is a combination between our fudge, which is a nubuck. I'm going to choose that over there, and then we have gone for a rough out green, so rough out Houston green. Now please don't get confused, because you'll see here nubuck Houston green. You've got to go up a little bit more and find rough out Houston green. So now we're going to have a little look at this video here and explain exactly what we want done. So for this boot, we are going to be doing the rough out on this leather toe cap, the eyelet facing, and the heel counter. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say HOM, or you could say something like Houston green if you want to type it out. HOM rough out on facing, toe cap, and heel counter. And to just make it as simple as possible, you can say here rest of the boot CAE. So from that, we can see when we get the order that HOM rough out must be on the facing over here. We can see over here that the leather toe cap must be rough out, and the heel counter. Now you can chop and change and do as you like. Quite often or not, you'll see in custom made African ranges, sometimes customers opt to also do the collar in a different color, but that, as you know, is up to your personal preference. So as you can see here at Jim Green, we are going the extra mile to give you the ultimate customized boot. Next step. So here it gets quite confusing, and where you need to do a little bit more research, especially if you're not into leather boots or are familiar with the Jim Green boot range. So the midsole. Now you might be asking, what is a midsole? So the midsole is basically what the outsole is stuck onto, and it's what the upper is stitched down to. So here at Jim Green, we have a polywoven midsole or a leather midsole with a black resin runner. So here we have made videos once again on the comparison between these two. So please reference our YouTube channel if you need to read up a little bit more on the benefits or the pros and the cons to either one of these. So for this video, we are going to be going for a polywoven midsole. We're now onto the toe cap. So leather toe cap or no leather toe cap. Now once again, we're going to reference back to the African Ranger, and on our request, we had opted for a rough out Houston green toe cap. So now obviously we are wanting a toe cap, so we would select leather toe cap. But let's say you wanted an African Ranger with no toe cap. You would simply go back here and say no leather toe cap, and obviously in your previous selection on the two-tone leathers, you wouldn't fill that space in. Now, structured toe cap. Now you might be wondering, I've just chosen my leather toe cap. What's a structured toe cap? You're basically choosing what goes in or under the leather between your foot and the upper. Here you see, because we chose the steel toe cap last, you have the option to choose steel. But if you had gone and chosen a different last, like an ASHM last, you wouldn't have this option to choose steel here. We are going for a thermoplastic toe puff. Now you might be wondering, what the hell is a thermoplastic toe puff? And what it is it's just something that gives a bit of structure to the toe. So if you chose no thermoplastic toe puff, then the leather above your toes won't have any structure to it, and the leather will be quite soft. Now, a thermoplastic toe puff does not give you any protection. It is not approved for any safety standards, and is just there to give shape to the shoe. With something like steel, these are safety approved and suitable for workforces. So our sample that we are making has a thermoplastic toe puff, and as you can see from the sneak peek that you can see how much structure it has. So now onto the steel shank, and this one's quite simple. It's either yes or a no. So what is a steel shank? This is something that goes between the outsole and the midsole. So here we've chosen the midsole, we've already chosen our outsole of the OR Oringo sole, and the steel shank, what this does, it gives support to your foot. For example, someone who would be in the work environment, climbing ladders, rocks, and wants just a bit of assistance underfoot, you would say yes, because you can imagine now you're climbing a ladder and you were to stand on something. If there was no steel shank, then the boot would actually bend. Whereas with a steel shank, it's going to have that support and help you as you go along. Now, as many of you may have seen, we offer barefoot boots. And once again, I reference back to our YouTube channel where you can see more information on barefoot boots, the pros and the cons. Now, standard barefoot boot or barefoot spec means that you want movement in your boot and for your feet. So for a barefoot option, most people would be saying no. But obviously here at Gym Green, and we've had this many times with our customers, is that sometimes people like having the zero drop on the sole option and at the same time want that support from a steel shank. So you can really choose what you want to do here. So for our boot, we are going yes. Onto the edge staining. Now, edge staining is basically the edge of the boot or the edge of the midsole. So it's that piece of material between the outsole and the upper leather. Now, because we are a stitch down construction, the leather is lasted over the top of the boot and flanged outwards. So you see that edge of the leather on the top there, and then underneath this is the midsole, which is either the polywoven midsole or the leather midsole, and this is depending on how you want your boot to look. So if you were to choose clear, it means you're going to get a natural look. If you're wanting a black staining, it means it's going to blend in the outsole to the midsole and into the upper. So we're wanting a more natural look, so I'm going to choose the clear staining. Now onto the laces, and pretty straightforward, and this is just personal preference. Once again, if you have a look at our YouTube channel and the custom made boots, you can get a better idea of what laces people have gone for and how the boots look. So for this boot, we are going to go olive. And the reason I've done this is just so that it ties in a little bit more with the rough out Houston green we have gone for. Now, another slightly confusing bit is upper stitching, and people often confuse this with stitch down thread. So we're going to explain these two to you now. So upper stitching, this is the stitching that we're using on the leather that holds the upper together, all the pieces of the upper that we have put together. So you'll see on this boot, we have gone for a white stitching. Now the reason we did this is just because it pops quite nicely on the leather colors that we have chosen, but we have many customers that go for a red or go for just a standard brown, and this depends on how you're going to be treating this boot. Obviously by going white, this can get dirty quite easily, and something you need to take into mind just for boot care. Now, stitch down thread. Now you're probably thinking, well, this is the same, and it isn't. So the stitch down thread is the stitching that we use on our number 10 machine that goes 360 degrees around the boot twice. Now this is what holds the upper to the midsole. So we chose our midsole earlier, and now this is quite an important option to choose as it does stand out quite a bit. You'll see from the sample boot that we have just made, the white stands out a lot more as if you were to choose maybe a brown or a black, which would blend in a lot more with the fudge and the rough out Houston green. So here we are going to be going white. Now just to jump back a little bit more, the pull loop. So the pull loop is basically that little loop on the back of the boot, and you can say leave as is, which is as per the standard African Ranger. You can add a leather pull loop, or you can say no pull loop. So this is just personal preference, and the only reason you would want to add a pull loop is if you want to use it to help get the boot on. The negative to adding a pull loop is that some people say it does look kind of ugly, and it really depends on what you're going to be using the boot for. So we're going to choose leave as is. Lining. So now this is a little bit of a confusing bit if you're not familiar with leather boots. So you can either choose single lasted or double lasted. So a single lasted boot means that there's only one layer of leather that we are using on the boots. Whereas if you go double lasted, it means that the boots have 2 layers of leather. And what we do on a double lasted boot is we use a calfskin lining that will last around the last and underneath the last. And then the second layer of leather will be lasted over the boot and flanged outwards, and then that's where you get the stitched down thread coming in. So for this boot, we're going to be going single lasted. So here you can see quite a bit of details to go through and a bit of research before you know what you want to do. And it doesn't end there, because you can still change your boot to how you want. So here we've just got a few examples to give you some kind of an idea of what you can do. So let's start. Change eyelet configuration. So this, once again, is to how you're going to be using the boot and personal preference. So you get a combination of eyelets, D-rings, and speed hooks. Now please take into account what effect these are going to have on the boot. For example, if you were to use an eyelet, it means that the shoelaces are going to be a lot further apart. Whereas if you were to use a D-ring, you're automatically giving that a few extra millimeters where the laces are going to be much closer together, and it's probably it is going to have an effect on how you lace the boots up. So for this African Ranger, we are going to go all eyelets. Now, you're probably thinking this is quite simple, and yes it is, because what you can do is you can say from bottom to top, you can say 3 eyelets, 2 speed hooks, or 2 eyelets, 1 D-ring, 2 speed hooks. It's really up to you and how you want to lace your boot up. So you would have seen from our sneak peek, we have gone all eyelets here. Next down, you have an option to add an extra upper row of stitching. This is purely just for look, and or if you want to make the boot a little bit stronger, but really 2 rows of stitching does the job. Branding placement is another important one, because here at Jim Green we obviously have some quite out there branding with our yellow tags, yellow swing tags, yellow branding, or embossing. So you can choose the options between no branding at all, where the boots are plain and simple, or you can go for a subtle look of just embossing, or you can go for the option have us sew on the yellow traditional Jim Green tags. So for this boot, we are just going to ask for the boot to be embossed on the heel. Embossed on the heel, and I'm just going to say only. Covers branding placement. Because we are customizing the boot, you rarely have any choice that you want to make. So quite often we have some customers who have a left foot or right foot that is shorter than the other foot, and what you can do here, for example, is you can say raise left foot by 2 centimeters. And what we actually do there is we'll then add in a layer of EVA to the boot and give you that little bit of extra height that you are after. For this boot, we haven't done that, but it's just to show you what you can do. So pretty straightforward, all eyelets embossed on the heel only. So here you'll see we've gone pretty straightforward with this boot. We're only on $274. Okay, so now we have come to the final step of your custom boot builder. Here you have your final price. Here you have a breakdown of what you have gone for. There are just some conditions that you have to read through here, basically just telling you what you have requested, and that you accept that there are no returns and exchanges. And all you need to do is enter your name, choose accept, and place your order. After clicking place your order, you'll be taken to a page where you'll enter in all your details for delivery and payment, and it's as simple as that. So I hope this video has made your choice a lot easier and decisions a lot better, and please do reference our YouTube channel for any further information or previous custom-made boots that we have made, so that you can end up with your perfect pair of boots. And here we go, just a bit of slow-mos and close-ups of the boot we have just created, so that you can see from where we started to what we ended up with. So thanks very much for listening, and any questions or anything like that, please feel free to email us and we'll get back to you and assist you with your gym green journey.